my Jordan year. I am living with no fear, moving myself from here to here. I elevate.
Dumelang Bagolo, hello and hi and welcome to episode 2 of Cultrd. I'm so excited to be here. Dumelang. Now, I know. Last week was a bit much. I could tell I was a little bit nervous, but I think it was warranted. Do you know what I mean? The beginning of a thing is a lot, but I'm excited. Welcome to episode 2 of Cultrd. I'm so grateful for your time, your energy, and just your attention, really. Thank you so much for spending the time with me now as we're about to hop into episode 2. For all of you who don't know, Lina Lakake Africa, and I am a musician, a conversationalist, and a conscious marketer, amongst many other things, as I had introduced myself in last episode. For all of you who don't know, Cultrd is a space where we have beautiful conversations about development and growth and understanding perspectives and all of the things that make the world go boom. So conversations from being to spirituality to just understanding ourselves better and progressing, because humans are progressionary beings. I wanted this to be a space where we can comfortably get to discuss ideals and things that we don't really get along with about each other, I guess, in the human race. So welcome, this is Cultrd, and yeah, like I said, Lina Lakake Africa, we're going to hop into episode 2. Last week's episode was the frequency of decision, and the reason why it was such a powerful episode for me was because having it as episode number 1 kind of sort of established what I was trying to do by starting the podcast. When I was talking about making a decision, it is very intense to ruminate over an idea, plan it out, and actually see it through into execution. So with this podcast, I am literally manifesting everything from my gifts to my talents to all of the things that I want to portray for the life that I find is ideal for me. So by starting with the frequency of decision, episode 2 is kind of piggybacking off of it as you see me go through this journey of life. I hope that it inspires you to make the decision and to continue just striving for your dreams and making sure that you are making space for yourself as a being. So if you haven't seen the title, today's episode 2 of Cultrd, we're talking about the laws of you. What are the laws of you? I coined the term the laws of you because I think that after you make the decision to want to follow your dreams, or the decision to do whatever it is that you've seen, whatever it is that your heart desires, you need to set certain boundaries and certain laws that you abide by that make sure that you're aligned to wherever you're trying to go. So for example, because I'm me, I figured that I needed to read more. I love reading already, but there are certain books that I know would expand my way of thinking and expand my views on consciousness and spirituality and just the future of things. So the one law of me is that I make absolutely sure that I read at least 2 books in a month. Now, Uguti, whether I finish the books or not is a different conversation. But the point of it is creating those things that you know that will propel your future self, right? Or propel you into the state of your future self. So the law of me, number 1, is the reading. And outside of the reading, law of me number 2 is prayer. Like, if there's anything about me, a girl will pray, my dear. We gotta pray this side. So I find that prayer is not only just a conversation with God, but prayer is a process that changes the way you think. Scripture says, be transformed by the renewal of your mind, right? So I really do think that prayer is that space for you to create that renewal. It helps you make the environment, there we go, that's the word I was looking for because I was tripping for a second, but prayer helps you create the environment of change. It helps you create the atmosphere of change by the things that you're speaking to Papa God. And not only that, outside of just speaking to Papa God, but hearing yourself say and talk about your life in a way that is positive, in a way that is hopeful, and believing, number 1, that what you're praying for you already have, as scripture would say also, but also just as a law of how the things work in this universe, you have to believe that what you're asking for is already done, for it to be done in the physical realm, that is, because it's already done in the spiritual realm. So the law of me, prayer is very, very important, my dear, because if you don't pray, you are not asking, and you have not because you ask not. I don't know if that's another scripture, but it's a fact of life. It is a scripture. Actually, you have not because actually, you know what? The girl's alive today. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's very, very important for us to just understand that there are laws and that there are things that we have to live by, boundaries, principles that we need to set for ourselves that are in alignment with the vision that we're seeing for ourselves. So one thing you'll come to realize is that on Cultrd, or anyway, in a space that you find me, and I am talking about vision a lot, because my people perish due to lack of knowledge. Number one, scripture. And number two, write the vision and make it plain. Do you know what I mean? Habakkuk 2:2. So those are the two things that I find are very common threads in my life, is that I quote scripture a lot and I talk about vision a lot, because genuinely I believe in goal setting. I believe in having a vision, and many a times in my life God has shown me that by writing a vision down and dedicating your plans to him, and really just making sure that you and him are on the same page, he makes that thing a real thing. But God is out here answering prayers, dog. Do you know what I mean? So I digress, but the point is, what I was trying to get to is that there are things that you need in order for you to get to where you want to get to, right? So I understand that it's hard to make a decision. I understand it's hard to find out what are those laws that you want to abide by. What are those laws that you find fit for you that will help you get to where you want to go? So I just want to give you 3 pointers, I guess. 3 pointers that will help you to figure out what those laws are for you. Number one, it's very important to decide, what do you believe? What is it that you believe? Did you pick up a belief system either from your family, or are there things that you inherently know that are important for you to live a principled life, whatever you define as principled, right? So you need to figure out what it is that you believe, because culture is your belief system, right? And I think that's why it's important to have these conversations on Cultrd. It's because your beliefs end up making sure that, or not rather making sure, but your belief system is what allows you to make decisions. You make decisions that you make based on what you believe, right? So if you believe that you deserve a certain lifestyle, you end up making decisions that lead you to that point. So your belief system is kind of sort of where everything stems from. So for example, last week I said we would touch on quantum jumping, right? But I think in touching on quantum jumping, we'll have a whole episode on quantum jumping and just quantum physics and metaphysics and all of the fun stuff. I'm excited. So stay tuned for that episode. But for now, I'm just going to touch on it in every conversation that I have, because it's kind of sort of important. So when I talk about quantum jumping, I often understand it to be you moving yourself into a different timeline, a timeline that past you wouldn't have known to be true. So for example, me 3 years ago was definitely not working out, was definitely not reading as much as I think is important to read now. I was reading, but I wasn't like reading the way I do now. Me 3 years ago didn't really know what the laws of her were. So I was just going with the flow. And for everybody in the back, I swear now, going with the flow is the one thing that I actually don't agree with. Like, there is flow state, yes, but going with the flow, it's not the one if you don't know where you stand, if you don't know what you believe in. Yes, you can let go, right, and be detached from the outcome, but flow without direction, you'll end up in a very weird place. So first things first, know what it is you believe. What is it that you believe? Ask yourself that question, right? And number two, outside of knowing what you believe, you need to have a vision. What is it that you've seen? And a lot of people say they don't have any talents, or they say they don't know what they're working towards or what they want. And it's because you're not asking yourself those questions. You actually need to sit down and write it down. Write it down and say, what does Africa want for her life? What does Amandla want for her life? What does Tony want for his life? I'm just naming random names. You know what I mean? Put your name there. What does want for his or her life? And figure out what it is that you're called for. Figure it out. Rather, let me not even say what you're called for, because even a calling, sometimes, you don't really know the full scope of what that calling is from the jump. But I'm saying, write it down. Write it down. Spend some time and ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself, what am I here for? Like more this life. Why am I here and what am I striving towards? Those are the things that are important. You can't really know what laws you abide by when you don't even know where you're going. Right? Because different laws go for different places. So you need to figure out where are you going, what do you believe? Those are the first two things. And the third thing I think is most important for me, you need to consecrate your ideas. You need to consecrate your ideas. You need to speak to Papa God. On this channel, my dear, I advocate for prayer. I advocate for having a spiritual life, having a spiritual regiment, because life is spiritual. First things first, we are spiritual beings. We are not human beings first. We are spiritual beings first in human form. So I advocate for having a spiritual life and a spiritual practice that will help you contribute to what the laws of you are. Like I said, a law of me, a law of she. I don't know. It sounded cute in my head. But a law of me for me is prayer, like I said. So as you can see, the spiritual practice is the important part of these things. So those are the three things that I think will help you figure out what the laws of you are. I figured we could also just discuss like what are important things in trying to build that boundary system, that environment for you, that environment, that you're trying to cultivate, to figure out what the laws of you are. It's very important to understand what your relationship is with discipline as well. Like when it comes to me, I can tell you now for free, the concept of discipline did not come easy for me at all. I don't know what it is. Discipline just didn't click. And it sucks because, it sucked past tense, because I learned the hard way that discipline is a necessity to progress or to do anything. You have to have some level of discipline. So I changed what discipline looked like to me. Really, for me, it's building rapport with yourself. It's building a trust relationship with yourself. Like, I realized that I struggled with discipline because I actually didn't trust myself to do the things that I said I was going to do. It's like how I would say, I'm going to go to the gym, and then 2 days in, or I'll say, no, I'll do it next week, right? There's one thing I heard from another podcast. I think it's Myron Golden. He's like my mentor. Like, he just don't know me. Sir, if you ever watch this video, you have changed my life. You amongst many other teachers, but you have definitely changed my life. And he said that the one person who's heard all of your lies is you. When I heard that, I said, yep. Because you're the only person that knows that when you said you were going to do a thing and didn't do it, it stuck with you. So it's like having a relationship with somebody and they say they're going to do something, or they promise to pick something up for you and constantly they never do it. What does your trust relationship with that person looks like? It looks like you are not the type of person I'm supposed to be mixing with. And now imagine that that's you and you're hearing that about yourself, which is what happens to us as human beings. We say we're going to do things, we promise ourselves things, and we never really get to doing those things. So my relationship with discipline had to become a relationship that I cultivated within myself, where I was building rapport and trust with myself, trust in myself to do the things that I said I was going to do. So I think that's what makes it a lot easier when you're trying to progress in life, and also just trying to change the way things are, change the state of your life. You actually need to trust you. You need to trust you to do the things you said you were going to do, baby girl. Otherwise, this thing, we're just doing it for fun, because you don't trust yourself, right? And another thing that makes the laws of you easier is learning how to love yourself. You need to learn how to love yourself. I found that I thought I loved myself, but my definition of self-love really has changed. My definition of self-love changed when I realized that for as long as there are people that in my perception or in my mind I think that I am better than, I have not learned how to love myself. Now, it sounds a bit complex, but if I break it down to you, what I meant is when I started to realize that I wasn't as nice as I thought I was, right? I was a low-key judgmental, and I didn't understand the concept of love because I would compare myself a lot with other people. And you only love yourself really to the degree that you're able to love and accept people for who they are. That's what I mean. And I realized that the grace that, and actually, let me plug you to a prayer that I made this one time. I was talking to Papa God and I was like, Lord, help me to love people the way that you love me. That changed the way I viewed people. Therefore, I was able to love myself more. I don't know if I'm saying this the right way, but I've kind of figured that the type of grace that God has over our lives, the type of relationship that God has with us, where irrespective of what we do, when we do it, irrespective of whether we check in with him or not, he's always ready and willing to accept us. And I had to change the way I viewed people. I had to change my relationship with people, and I was able to start loving myself better after I was able to start giving not only myself grace, but give people grace. Like, we're all trying to figure it out. So this helped me in terms of principle building as well, creating laws of me that work for me, but out of the premise of love, out of the premise of not only loving myself, but loving people and accepting them the way that they are, and not the way that I'd like them to be. Now, controversial, because I also do have controversial stances about a lot of social issues, but doesn't mean that I love people any less. I am very comfortable with loving people and loving myself, and that's why I'm able to build rapport with myself, because I trust myself and I trust the instincts that I have to make decisions and to live within the boundaries that I've created for my life that are helpful not only to myself but to my family and to my society, and just being a better person in that regard. So yeah, this is episode 2, where we're discussing the laws of you, and I really do hope that you have grabbed something that you want to take along with you for this week. Episodes are going to be live on Sundays, because I feel like the things that I'm speaking about are things that one must ruminate over, even myself, just considering how I can make sure that the laws that I abide by are aligned with the vision that I've seen for myself, are aligned with the belief systems that I have decided for myself, and also aligned with the way that I perceive love and the way that I say that I love people. Am I aligned in that regard? So being conscious of asking yourself those types of questions really does help you to move into a different direction, really does help you change the person that you once were to the future self that you want to be. So welcome to Cultrd. Like I said, I am more chilled today. I think I'm very much more relaxed. I think I'm feeling your vibes. You on the other side of the screen, I'm feeling your vibes. So yeah, thank you so much for watching Lina Lakake Africa, and yeah, I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Road to however many subscribers that the Lord wills for me to have. Road to that. And don't forget to listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. And thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time, and I will see you next week on episode 3 of Cultrd.
My Jordan year,